Let's try again. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Between Two Slopes. I'm really excited about today's episode. We're talking about the buying process of buying new equipment, right? And we kind of talked about this at the beginning or the end of August, back when Austin was here. We talked about what to be looking for when it comes to sales. Now that we are sales are over, the new equipment's here. If there's something that you've been really excited about, or there's multiple things that caught your eye for this season, we're going to make sure that you know what questions to ask yourself to make sure you're in the best ski possible, or snowboard. And we're going to look at some skis, look at some different websites, and see, what options are available, right? So when I was thinking about this episode, I really, thought back to when I used to sell with Curated. So Curated isn't a company anymore. It's a different podcast episode to talk about that. But at Curated, you could go online and you would get matched with someone like me who would help break down your options and what skis are available. So they would ask you a ton of questions, and based off those questions, they'd then send you recommendations. So I did that for, I think, 2 seasons, but I was also selling in the shops. So I love matching skis to people. And as I was thinking about that experience, I really thought back to the questions that were most important. And I wanted to share those questions with you so you can ask yourselves those questions. But as we get started, the biggest thing you can do is be honest with yourself, right? So we all think we're really awesome, and we all want these really great, cool looking skis. But usually the ski that's going to fit us the best, or definitely the ski that's going to fit us the best, is when we're honest with ourselves, where we like to ski, how often we're skiing, and terrain, how often we're on piste versus off piste. So we're going to dive into those questions so that you can, see how you can dissect this for yourself. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat and we'll do this thing. So also forgive my ski. I didn't realize it's a little off. That's okay. So question number 1 is, how many days in a season do you ski? Now, the reason that I ask this question first is because if someone says they're skiing 30 days in a year, that means they're skiing almost every single weekend, or so they're skiing at least once a week during the season, or they're skiing, weekend, weekday, and then they take a week off. So that person's skiing a lot, and they're seeing variable conditions, right? So that's something that is really important versus someone who's I only ski 5 days a year, right? That person's probably going on a ski vacation and getting those 5 days in consecutively, right? And so that's really important to keep in mind, because if you're skiing 5 days in a year and those 5 days are consecutive, you're going to want a ski that's easier to come back to and almost relearn on than something that has a sharper learning curve, right? Because if you get this really aggressive, heavy ski and you come back and you're ready to ski it, the first day you're on the mountain, the first of your 5 days of your trip, are going to be really cumbersome, right? Because you're getting back in the groove of things, and you're remembering how that ski likes to go. Whereas if you've got something a little more lightweight, a little more forgiving, when you jump on that ski, it's going to pick up for you a lot quicker, and it won't exhaust you as much that day, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Where do you fall? 30 plus? Are you around the 5 days a year? That's really important, right? And there's also the investment piece that goes into that, because if someone's skiing 30 days, they're usually more likely to want to spend a little more money on their ski. The other thing that's important to keep in mind is, do you have existing skis, and do you plan on keeping those skis? So for example, I've got my Forefront Devastators right here, and I originally got them in hopes that they would kind of replace this ski, my Gauchos, which are a 102, my Devastators are a 108. However, when I got them, I realized that they fit a different category of skiing condition than my Gauchos. So my Devastators still do awesome, and I can take them on almost any day. But my Gauchos have camber, which makes it so that when I'm really doing hard curves or taking, really aggressive bites and turns, I want to be able to feel comfortable. Whereas the Devastators, it's full rocker, so it's not going to have that same bite as a cambered ski would. So the reason I tell you that is, let's say you have like a ski that you've really liked, but you're just ready for something new. That ski that you really like can still have a place in your quiver, right? So you could keep it for either like early conditions, or if it's a great like groomer ski, keep it for when conditions are really crappy, and then think about getting a little bit wider of a ski for when, conditions are more favorable, right? So that's something to keep in mind as well. Then as you go from there, you ask yourself, all right, what kind of terrain do I like? Do I ski like 70% on the groomers? I'll dive in the trees here and there. I like a powder day, but I don't see a ton of them. Are you strictly groomers? Are you like powder, you want to find as much powder as possible? The only time you touch a groomer is to get back to the lift. Are you doing backcountry skiing, right? These questions are also going to line up. So let's say we're doing 50-50. We want to ski that, we can carve groomers, but we can take it off piste and still feel comfortable. We'll kind of start there. So then the other question would be like, obviously, how much money would you want to spend? And that's something that you can determine for yourself. But I wanted to share a couple websites, and we've been on Evo before, but I really like Evo because it has a lot of options and a great filter system, and you can really see a lot of variety. So someone who's going 50-50, depending on where they are, right? So someone who's skiing 50% on piste, 50% off in the West is going to be different than someone in the East, right? The Atomic Bent 110s, I love my bent Shettlers. They're these ones right here. I love them. They're the 120s. These are the 110s, so a little bit narrower, right? But I've skied these, and I've skied them in like on groomed runs as well as off piste, and they did really well, which was surprising. This ski is probably more of a 60% off piste or powder ski and like 40% on groomers. But really great ski, phenomenal option. And then you have something like this Mantra, right? Which it's got a narrower waist width. It's got metal in the ski. That ski is not going to love being in the powder. This one's more like 70% groomers versus 30% powder, right? It can still explore, but if you're going powder skiing all day, you're gonna notice like that weight, and you're gonna notice, it doesn't have as much surface area and as much float, right? So as we move down, you also want to ask yourself, okay, well, you have skis like this QST right here, right? And the QST is awesome, really phenomenal ski. And one thing that makes it so great is the waist width. You see it says 94 right down here. But they usually give it a little more of a tip on it, so that as long as you keep your speed up, you're gonna be okay in the powder, right? So even though this is more of a front side or a groomer designated like waist width, if you know what you're doing and can keep your speed up in soft conditions, this ski will still help you feel very in control and give you that float that you're looking for. And it's because the shovel or the nose on that ski is giving you the float because you're giving it the speed that it needs to do that. We're also going to jump over into the Blizzard Black Pearl. This is like one of the greatest skis ever made for women, like hands down. It's got a wider tip, but it tapers quickly, right? So all of a sudden it gets really wide. Once again, it's to allow you to float a little bit, allow you to initiate a turn better. But this ski, they use the word intuitive, right? You think you don't have to put a lot of effort into the ski, and it acts and behaves the way you would anticipate. So those are like the first options that you're getting into. Now you want to, take it a step beyond, right? And what that step beyond looks like is, okay, am I going into the park? Am I doing trees? Do I have multiple pairs of skis, like my quiver, like we were talking about, that now I want to fill in a hole, or do I want to pick something that is going to, cover lots of different categories? If you guys are familiar with like Blister skis, they do an awesome job at least when I was following them more closely. In their buyer's guide, they would do like a 1 ski quiver, a 2 ski quiver, and a 3 ski quiver, because you can get skis that kind of complement each other depending on the day, right? So we can take my quiver here, for example. I got my Gauchos here, 102, twin tip, forgiving. I take these out on any day where the snow is hard and I know I'm going to be on the groomers because the trees or the powder isn't great. And if there is a spot here or there, they also can perform well. Back when these turbos were in commission, they're bulletproof, right? Because they're a little heavier, so they were awesome to take. And then as more snow begins to fall and the conditions soften up, that's when I pull out like my Devastators, because I feel more comfortable pivoting and going into conditions that are softer, but also being able to carve and do jumps on my Devastators. And that soft conditions and the soft snow will help me not need the camber that my Gauchos would offer. And then on the really deep days, that's when I would take my Bent Shettlers out. They're a 120, right? Tons of surface area, tons of play, very pivoty and shifty, right? So you can ask yourself, okay, what skis do I have now? Usually people start out with something, kind of like this Rally Bird, or, a Mancho's one that does pretty good at like a 1 ski quiver. But then let's say you already had a Mancha and you want to expand, right? The next ski you might consider getting is something like the Bent 110, right? Something that as the conditions soften up, you take this out and you know that you're going to be hitting softer conditions, powder, trees, all that good stuff, right? Or even like this Season Forma. They used to be called Season Equipment, and if I'm not mistaken, Eric Pollard made them. I can give you a little history lesson on that, but he's a great graphic designer in my opinion, and he does all of his skis this solid color. They were black for like between 3 and 5 years, and they just switched to this red. And the reason being is he saw back when he was at Line that people would buy his skis just for the graphic, and they'd kind of get rid of their old ski, and he wanted to create something more sustainable for the industry and as well as for the consumer, right? So really cool guy, makes really great skis. So let's keep going down, see some other like 1 ski quivers, and we can like mix and match as we go through. But that's kind of what, if you guys have questions, like let's talk. But if you don't, I'm just gonna go through and talk about skis that I want to talk about. And feel free to drop any questions, or if you're watching this back, drop a comment, and I'm happy to help you guys answer any questions that you might have about, what ski would be best for you. So this K2 Reckoner here, also side note, tangent a little bit, graphics for 2026, underwhelming in my opinion, underwhelming, except this one with the wolf, that's cool. Okay, K2 Reckoner 102. This ski is soft in the tip and tail, but pretty stiff underfoot, which what that allows you to do is, if you're someone who likes to butter, or if you're going on lots of jumps, having a softer tip and tail will allow you to, as you like ease into your landing, right? So this is the snow, you can like ease into your landing. When the tail is softer, it allows it to flex and kind of catch you a little bit better. It also, when you're like carving, if you're coming out of a turn, it's easier to smear your turn and not be as locked in when you have a softer tail. So this ski, if someone was like, I love riding in the park, that's where I usually spend most of my time, but I want something that, I can still bomb groomers and maybe duck into the trees here and there. Like, this is the one ski for the park skier who wants to ski the park, but also wants to ski everywhere else. Really solid option. I skied the Nomad 105s one time, and I was like, oh, just another, like, whatever. I got on that ski, it blew me away. With, like, it was a heavier ski, but it held up really well, which usually heavier skis do. But I didn't feel as much weight, which was really cool because you don't get as tired, right, if you're not lugging around these skis. So Icelantic skis are really unique because they come from the Never Summer factory, which is a snowboard factory, as well as Harvest Skis comes out of there. So I interned for Harvest Skis for a season, and it was really cool to go and see the factory where all of the equipment was made. So moving down, the ARV 106 is like a killer, I ski the West, but I want something that, could go in the park, I could carve with, but also I could do, some powder, some soft snow. Really awesome option. And this year they added a 106 Ti, so they stiffened it up with some metal. I gotta try that. That sounds so awesome. And then you have something like the Elon Ripstick. So I have a friend, we used to work at the ski shop together. He had some Elon Ripsticks, and I always thought they were just like old man skis. I'm like, oh yeah, you got your, like, what is it, amphibio design, like, really cool. So what that means is your inside edge has more camber to it and your outside edge has more rocker to it, which allows you to have the bite and aggression where you want it, but then have the flexibility and the play where you want it, right? So really cool. So I was like, oh, cool, you got your old man skis. And he's like, well, try them. So we switched skis because we had the same boot sole length. And I was surprised. They grip really well. They carve really well. They pivot well. Like, really awesome ski. So that would be one, it even comes in like a 106, right? So if you started with an Elon Ripstick 96 as your daily driver, like, this is what I'm gonna ski on, like, this is gonna be my one ski quiver, I'm gonna buy this. And then a couple years down the road, you say, okay, I'm ready for something different. Keep the Elon Ripstick in your back pocket for kind of those weird, or when I say weird days, maybe like harder pack days, and then get yourself something in the like 108 range or the 106 range, just a step up, where if there was like a Venn diagram of conditions or skis, the daily driver of the Elon Ripstick, you want it to overlap like hardly at all with the ski that you would be upgrading to, if that makes sense. So because if you get skis that are exactly the same, you'll be like, well, I want to ride this ski, but the Elon Ripstick also does really well in this conditions. Like, which one do I take? When you could have been like, this is a great Elon day, I'll take my Elons. And then it's like, it's not a great Elon day, good thing I got this wider ski, right? If I'm going into a ski shop or looking online, what other information do I need to be prepared with? Great question. So you need to know your height. One looking to buy skis, yeah. You need to know your height, you need to know your weight, you need to know your skier type, right? So are you an aggressive skier? And once again, it goes back to like this style and preference. And well, I also want to get into bindings just a little bit. So I might have gotten off on a tangent, but that's okay because we're here to talk about skis. We love it. So other information would be like, do you want a twin tip? Do you want a traditional? And twin tip would be just more forgiving. And they do better at skiing backwards, but you don't have to, like, they have other benefits beyond just skiing backwards. Do you want a traditional ski? Something that you want to really lean into your boots and get a solid carve from. And then obviously price, right? When you're walking in, do you want something new? Do you want something used? And then we'll get into bindings in just a little bit here to talk about how that can, you change up the skis feel a little bit. Okay. Let's see. Anything else I want to talk about? Did that answer your question, DeFern? Let me know. Let's see. Let's go to Forefront. So Forefront skis are really interesting to me because I really like Forefront skis. And as you can see, there's 4 pairs of Forefront skis between me and my wife. And they're really awesome. They have like a really cool history. But in these last couple of years, I feel like they haven't been as, what's the word? They're always like, oh, we're designed by skiers for skiers. And it's like, yeah, but then they're not as, they're not like pushing the envelope like they used to, or like trying new things. And I know that like you gotta make money, and if you try something really outlandish, like people might not buy it. But when the MSP 91 came out, I was a little disappointed, because if they were coming out with a new ski, I would have loved to see something that was, they don't have a twin tip in their lineup that isn't a full rocker ski anymore, except the Switch. But the Switch is branded as like a park ski. What was your most recommended ski when you were selling in the shop? Ooh, I like those graphics. Yeah, I like these graphics too. The most recommended ski I sold, they started calling me Trent Chetler, because I just sold Atomic Ben Chetler 100s all day, because so many people can get on that ski and enjoy it and go in a ton of different conditions for it. If I was selling to a woman, I would always go to the Black Pearl 88, because once again, no one has any complaints with that ski. They all love it. So great question. Those are usually my go-tos. And then if they were looking for something a little, if they didn't know what they were looking for, that's when I would steer them towards that. If they had a little more preference and wanted certain things, that's when I would, make adjustments. So let's talk Forefront skis. The other ski that when it came out I was a little disappointed is the Navarre, which is just the Raven spelled backwards. And the only difference is the camber profile. The Navarre has camber and the Raven doesn't. So, like, yeah, it's cool. And, Wonder Alpine did something where you could, like, choose your camber profile. However, they're out of business now. And it's just a little sad that they didn't do something different. Renegade's super awesome ski, on the heavier side. I've got tons of family and friends that love their Hojis, absolutely love them. 112 fully rockered ski, right? And that rocker is going to allow you to pivot differently than a cambered ski would, right? And so that's kind of what they're going for. A new ski for them this year is the Sinister, which is a cambered powder ski. So I guess they do have a new cambered ski, but it's a powder ski. I want like an all mountain twin tip ski from them. I think that would be so cool. Anyways, cambered, I think it's like a 114. I'm not 100% sure. I could click on it, but we'll keep going. Then the Inthanes are also fully rockered. So, like, I feel like Forefront's identity and brand is in like their, like, if someone came in and they said, I want to buy a full rockered ski, I'd say, not at this shop, you don't. And I would send them to forefront.com because they make really awesome skis and the majority of them are fully rockered. They've really done a great job. So, but I would love to see a cambered all mountain ski from them. Twin tip, preferably. So, if you were, then you can look and say, if you were to walk into a shop, you've got MSRP, right, which is manufacturer suggested retail price, MSRP and MAP. So MAP is the lowest that the retailer is allowed to purchase that or sell that ski for. a lot of these higher end skis are going to be going for obviously higher amounts, right? I think like the White Walker is like $1,100, which is crazy. That's a lot of money. But they have lots of different chains of, or, people involved. The distribution chain is a lot longer than like Forefront or J Skis, because they make their skis, they get them shipped to their warehouse, and then they ship them to you. So they don't have to sell them to the shop, who then sells them to you. So they usually can put better materials or more effort, or, there's different business models that go into it. But usually you get a really high quality product. The only downside is you can go to a shop and demo a ski before, and it's harder to do that. There are some shops where you can demo skis or Forefront skis, but then you have to go buy them online. So it's a very unique business model that I think is really cool, but it's just something to keep in mind. So Matt Sturbins is returning to Forefront, so we'll see more, and that's what MSP stands for, is Matt Sturbins Pro Model. So really cool to see him back. We'll see, what they end up doing more or less of. Then we get into like J Skis, and I like to call Jason Leventhal like the godfather of twin tip skis, because he's the reason we have twin tip skis. He started Line, he started Full Tilt, obviously started J Skis, so he knows what he's doing when it comes to skis, and he's not afraid to add a little weight to the ski, because weight will allow you to have more suspension, meaning, so if you're like hitting, rough terrain, or you're going into powder that's already been skied through, the weight will allow you to not get shook or rocked. And so he's really struck an awesome balance between weight and style and playability, how easy it is to maneuverability. The All Play is one of his most popular skis. I think the Vacation is so cool. This 104 is like right in my wheelhouse. I knew some guys in Steamboat that had a Master Blaster that they loved. And the Slacker came out when I was in Steamboat, and I had some guys that were like huge J Ski fans, and they backcountry'd a lot, and they were so excited for this ski. Because it's a 110, which is great for backcountry, but also it has a little more weight, so you're not sacrificing, performance, right? Because you give up weight, you're also giving up performance. So it's good to, ask yourself, how much weight do I want? How much weight can I handle and still get the performance that I'm looking for, right? So yeah, he makes awesome skis in a variety of different graphics, as you can see. But let's talk bindings for the last couple minutes of our show, or our podcast, I guess, and we'll go from there. So when I said weight is important, right? Bindings are a place where you can either help your heavy ski be lighter, or you can help your lighter ski be heavy. And there's a couple different ways to mix and match things like that. But this is how I like to think of it. So for those nerds out there like me, if you know what min-maxing is, this is kind of where that comes into play. So for a video game character that has stats, right? And you put like everything in strength and everything in speed, you wouldn't want to put like stats in magic use if your guy is all about speed and strength, right? Because you're splitting what you're good at, right? When you could just maximize your strength and your speed. On the other hand, when it comes to certain characters or certain skis, you would want to, increase certain aspects to allow that ski or character to do something different, okay? So that's how I like to think of it. If you have any questions, let me know. But when it comes to skis and bindings, the best example I like to share is actually with my Bencheller 120s. And the reason that is because a lot of people love their Bencheller 120s, like I do. And the ski is surfy, it's center stanced, about, not like super center, or it's like 2.9 back from center. And a lot of people will put like a lighter binding on it because it's a light ski, right? And so for me, I know that my powder days are going to be at Brighton, and I know that by noon, the powder is going to be chopped up. So if my powder ski is super light, by the middle of the day, I'm going to be like this and chattering and bouncing all over the place, and it's not going to be as enjoyable. So I put a Pivot 115 on this ski to give it more weight than if I were to put like a Tyrolia 13, or they have like the 14 now, or even like the Griffin 13. People will jump to the Jester, which is heavier, so that's kind of in the same. But I picked a heavier ski or a heavier binding, so that when I get into chop, there's more suspension for my ski, right? So let's now apply that to like more of a ski like this MSP 99, or even like like the Master Blaster. These skis have metal in them, so they already have some weight and suspension to them. So you can ask yourself, like, how aggressive am I gonna be with this ski, right? Like, how strong do I want it to be? If you're gonna be really aggressive with it, a Pivot, a Griffin, a Jester would be awesome. If you're like the idea of the metal ski, but you don't want to be hyper aggressive with it, then get something a little lighter for that ski, like a Tyrolia, a Warden. They don't make Wardens anymore. STH, something a little bit lighter to, not add so much. Sorry I'm late. I missed everything. Start over from the beginning, please. Feel free to watch back. I'm not going to start all the way over, but that's okay. Welcome. We're super glad to have you. We're just diving into bindings a little bit, talking about how they can benefit your ski or change how the ski feels, right? So then you look at something like the Slacker, or even like the Hojis I'd put in this, is the skis that could be hybrid options, right? Where you could put a what's called a shift binding, which I've got on my Archers right here. And what that does is it shifts between like an alpine binding versus like a backcountry binding. And so it can take a ski that's a backcountry oriented ski and turn it into something that you could also take in the resort, right? And so there's certain skis that kind of blend this, resort and backcountry option. Like the Hoji, the Renegade would be really good examples of that. Put a hybrid binding on there, get a hybrid boot, and this could be a backcountry and a resort killer ski. So those are great options. But I hope that makes sense with how bindings, can kind of play into the feel of the ski, add weight or take it away. It's something to consider, but at the end of the day, this is what I like to tell people, right? When it comes to bindings, at the end of the day, you can almost close your eyes and pick one and you won't be able to tell the difference. And I seriously mean that. A lot of people won't be able to tell the difference between the short length or like the short height on a Tyrolia versus the height of a Warden, right? Because I'm pretty sure Wardens were significantly taller. Even though the ski shop employee and me will tell you that the higher the binding, the more leverage you have, but the lower the binding, the more of like the feel of the ski you get. 98% of people aren't going to notice. 98. I probably can't even notice, right? So, and also on that note, if you're like, oh man, I'm about to spend, $500 to $1,000 on skis, and I'm in between these two skis and I want to make sure I make the right choice. If you've narrowed down your options, right? Let's say you're here in Evo, you go to All Mountain Skis, and then let's say men's, size range. We'll click there. We're doing skis. We're doing waist width. Let's say we're like 100 to 109. Ability level, we'll say we're advanced to expert. Right? Like, these skis will still have things that differentiate them from each other, right? Like I said, like the Elon Ripstick is going to have some different features. But it gets to a point where you start narrowing down and you start like cutting skis. It gets to a point where you're no longer comparing apples and oranges. You're comparing apples and apples, right? Like, the skis are going to be really great. No one's making bad skis these days. No one. Seriously, no one's making bad skis. Everyone's making phenomenal skis. And that's why I don't make skis, because everyone makes great skis. So we were like, oh, I don't know what to get between like the Moment 108 or... Okay, the Moments are a little, actually, I'm trying to think. Oh, here's a good example. You're like, I don't know what to get between a Nordica Enforcer and like a Declivity 108, right? You're like, oh, they're 4 millimeters different. And this one's got a little more of a tail. And this one's $50 more, so that means it's better. It's like, not necessarily. I bet they're ski pretty similar. At the end of the day, if you get it down, if you can narrow it down to like 2 skis like that, pick the one that you think looks cooler. And the only reason I say that is I don't want people buying off of looks, because I think that sets like a dangerous precedent, right? Because they're like, oh, sick, like this Wildcat 108 looks sick, and they're like skiing in the East and they like don't need 108 millimeters underfoot. So I don't encourage you to buy just off looks, but if you narrow it down, buy the one you think looks better, because if you feel good, you'll ski good. That's what I like to tell people. So that's important to keep in mind, right? Like, do your research, narrow it down, get as close as you can, and then if you're stuck between 2, just pick the one you think looks cooler. Call it a day. Have a great time, you know? So that's all I've got for you guys. But I super appreciate you being here and asking questions. If, like I said, as you're watching this back, let me know if you have any more questions or you want another episode like this. I love talking skis, so that's why I had to do this episode again, kind of again, because Austin and I were talking about this earlier back in August, but I really felt that, you know, there's a lot of new stuff and a lot of questions still out there, so I wanted to have this conversation. So keep those things in mind. Ask yourself those questions, right? Where are you skiing? How often are you skiing? What kind of terrain do you like best? How much are you willing to pay? All that good stuff. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on the slopes. We are a month out from skiing, so super excited. Once again, thank you all for being here, and I'm looking forward to talking more and seeing where this season goes. If you don't already, like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and let's have a great season. Thank you all so much.